The cargo ship Terra's Hope drifted silently through the void between star systems, its hull gleaming under the distant light of twin suns. Captain Jake Miller stood on the bridge, watching the endless expanse of space through the main viewport. His crew of 12 humans worked quietly at their stations, monitoring the ship's systems as they transported medical supplies to the frontier colony of New Haven. The Terra's Hope was not a warship. She carried no plasma cannons, no missile batteries, no energy shields designed for combat. Her cargo holds contained antibiotics, surgical equipment, and life-saving medicines desperately needed by the colonists, who had been cut off from supply runs for months due to pirate activity in the sector. "Captain, we're picking up multiple contacts on long-range sensors," called out Navigator Tom Walsh from his station. His voice carried a note of concern that made Jake's stomach tighten. Jake moved to the sensor display, studying the green dots that appeared on the tactical screen. 6 ships, moving in formation, approaching fast from the asteroid field they had just passed. The signatures were unknown, but their approach vector suggested hostile intent. "Try hailing them, Tom," Jake ordered, though he already suspected what kind of response they would receive. The communications officer, Lisa Park, worked her controls for several moments before shaking her head. "No response, Captain. They're jamming our frequencies." The unknown ships drew closer, and their true nature became clear. These were raiders, sleek, predatory vessels built for speed and intimidation. Their hulls bore the scars of countless battles, and weapon ports glowed with barely contained energy. "Captain, they're targeting us," reported Weapons Officer Mike Stone. Even though the Terra's Hope carried only basic defensive systems, Mike had served in the Earth Defense Force before joining the Merchant Marine. His training told him everything he needed to know about their situation. The lead raider ship finally responded to their hails, and the bridge speakers crackled with an alien voice speaking broken human standard. "Human cargo ship, you will surrender immediately. Transfer all supplies to our vessels, and your crew will be spared." Jake exchanged glances with his officers. They all knew the stories of what happened to crews who surrendered to raiders in this part of space. Sometimes they were sold into slavery. More often, they simply disappeared. "This is Captain Miller of the merchant vessel Terra's Hope," Jake replied calmly. "We are carrying medical supplies to New Haven Colony. These medicines will save lives. Surely we can reach some kind of agreement." Harsh alien laughter echoed through the bridge speakers. "Humans always try to bargain. Your medicine will bring good prices on the black market. Surrender now, or we will take your cargo from your corpses." The raider ships moved into attack formation, surrounding the Terra's Hope like wolves circling wounded prey, their weapons charged with ominous humming sounds that carried through space via the ship's sensors. Jake looked at his crew, good people who had signed up to help colonists, not to fight alien pirates. Tom was thinking about his wife and 2 young children back on Earth. Lisa had just gotten engaged to her longtime boyfriend. Mike carried photos of his elderly parents who depended on his income. But Jake also saw something else in their faces. These humans had grown up hearing stories of their species' long struggle among the stars. Earth had been dismissed as a primitive backwater when humans first ventured into space. Other races had tried to exploit them, enslave them, or simply ignore them. Those other races had learned to regret their mistakes. "Tom, send an encrypted message on the emergency frequency," Jake ordered quietly. "Tell them our situation and coordinates." "Already done, Captain," Tom replied with a grim smile. The lead raider ship moved closer, its weapon ports glowing brighter. "This is your final warning, humans. Surrender or die." Jake keyed the communication system one more time. His voice was steady, carrying no trace of fear. "This is Captain Miller. I want you to understand something very important. You've made a terrible mistake. We are human beings, and we do not surrender to pirates and murderers. The alien laughter came again, but it sounded less confident now. Brave words from dead men. No, Jake replied softly, so only his crew could hear. Brave words from humans. The raider ships began their final approach, weapons powering up for the killing blow. But something had changed in the void around them. The stars themselves seemed to be watching, waiting to see what would happen when predators made the fatal error of hunting the wrong prey. In the depths of space, other eyes were watching. Other ships were moving. And the raiders were about to learn why attacking humans was considered the ultimate mistake in this part of the galaxy. Asterisk, the first raider. Vessel opened fire without warning, sending plasma bolts streaking toward the Terra's Hope. Captain Jake Miller gripped his command chair as the ship shuddered under the impact. Emergency lights flashing red across the bridge. Hull breach in Cargo Bay 2. Shouted Engineer Dave Ross over the intercom. We're losing atmosphere. Seal it off, Jake ordered. All hands to emergency stations. The raiders had expected a quick victory against an unarmed merchant ship. What they found instead was a crew that refused to panic. Lisa Park rerouted power to strengthen their weak shields, while Mike Stone activated every defensive system their civilian vessel possessed. Tom Walsh pushed the engines beyond safe limits, making the Terra's Hope dance through space like a ship half her size. But they were still outgunned 6-1. Captain, we can't take much more of this, Mike reported as another plasma barrage hammered their shields. Our defensive systems weren't built for this kind of punishment. Through the tactical display, Jake watched the raider ships closing in for the kill. Their alien crews were probably celebrating already, counting the profits from their stolen medical supplies. They had no idea what was coming. Tom, how long until help arrives? Jake asked. The navigator checked his instruments. 20 minutes, Captain. Maybe less. 20 minutes might as well have been 20 hours. The Terra's Hope wouldn't last another 5 minutes under this concentrated assault. That's when Jake made a decision that would become legend among human spacers. Lisa, patch me through to all raider vessels. Override their jamming if you have to. Sir, that will drain our remaining power reserves, she warned. Do it, the communications. Officer worked frantically at her controls, finally breaking through the alien jamming. Jake's voice echoed across all frequencies, reaching not just the raider ships, but any vessel within light years of their position. This is Captain Jake Miller of the human merchant vessel Terra's Hope. To the coward raiders attacking my ship, you have 15 minutes to withdraw from this system. After that, your lives are forfeit. The alien laughter that responded was even more mocking than before. 15 minutes, human. Your ship will be debris in 5. I'm not talking about my ship, Jake replied calmly. I'm talking about what's coming for you. The lead raider captain's voice turned ugly. Nothing is coming, human. You are alone, and you will die alone. But Jake smiled grimly as his sensors began picking up new contacts. Dozens of them, dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. You really don't understand, do you? You attacked a human ship carrying medical supplies to dying colonists. That's not just piracy. That's a declaration of war against humanity itself. The first ship to arrive was the destroyer New York, her angular hull bristling with weapon arrays. Behind her came the cruiser Moscow, followed by the battleship Johannesburg. More ships kept appearing, vessels from the Human Defense Fleet, the Colonial Guard, and even private security forces. But it wasn't just human ships responding to the distress call. The massive bulk of an Allied coalition dreadnought materialized next, its alien captain speaking on open channels. This is Commodore Vell of the Altarian Fourth Fleet. We stand with our human allies. A sleek Centauri battlecruiser dropped out of hyperspace beside the dreadnought. Centauri Defense Force, ready to assist. Came another alien voice. Within minutes, over 40 warships had surrounded the raider vessels. The pirates who had been so confident attacking one unarmed merchant ship now found themselves facing a combined fleet that could have conquered entire star systems. "This is Admiral Hayes of the Human Defense Fleet," came a new voice over the communications. "Raider vessels, you are completely surrounded. Surrender immediately or face the consequences." The lead raider captain's voice was no longer mocking. This is impossible. How did so many ships arrive so quickly?" Jake keyed his microphone one final time. "You attacked a human ship. Did you think we would just let that slide? Every human vessel in 10 star systems dropped what they were doing to come here. And our allies came with them, because they know what it means when someone threatens innocent humans trying to save lives." The silence from the raider ships was deafening. "You have 30 seconds to surrender," Admiral Hayes announced. "After that, we will show you exactly why attacking humans is considered a fatal mistake in this galaxy." The raider ships sat motionless. In space, completely surrounded, their weapons useless against the overwhelming firepower arrayed against them. Their captains were finally beginning to understand the terrible truth about humanity that other predator species had learned too. Late, humans protected their own, and they never forgot those who tried to harm them. Asterisk, the 30 seconds stretched into eternity for the raider crews. Captain Jake Miller watched from the bridge of the damaged Terra's Hope as 43 warships held position around the 6 pirate vessels. The contrast was overwhelming. Sleek human destroyers alongside massive alien dreadnoughts, all united in their purpose. "Raider vessels, your time is up," Admiral Hayes announced. "Surrender now, or we will open fire." The lead raider captain finally broke the silence, his voice shaking with desperation. "Wait! We surrender. Do not fire. We will release the human ship." "Too late for that," came Hayes's cold reply. "You fired on civilians carrying medical supplies. You threatened innocent lives. In human space, it carries only one penalty." But before the admiral could give the order to fire, another voice cut through the communications array. It was calm, measured, and carried the authority of High Command. "This is Fleet Admiral Chun of the Human High Command, speaking from Earth. All vessels, hold your fire." Jake frowned. Even Admiral Hayes seemed surprised by the intervention. "Admiral Hayes, you and your fleet have done excellent work responding to this crisis," the Earthbound Admiral continued. "However, High Command has decided that a simple execution would be insufficient in this case." The raider captains seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief, thinking they might escape with their lives after all. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "These raiders attacked a medical supply ship," Admiral Chun continued. "They threatened to murder civilians whose only crime was trying to save lives. This cannot be answered with mere destruction. It requires a lesson that will echo across the galaxy." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He had heard stories about what happened when Earth High Command got personally involved in dealing with threats to human civilians. "Admiral Hayes, you will take the raider vessels and their crews prisoner. They will be transported to the Titan penal facility for processing." Every human in the fleet knew about Titan. It wasn't just a prison. It was humanity's statement about what happened to those who preyed on the innocent. Built in the rings of Saturn, Titan was where the worst criminals in human space learned the true meaning of justice. "Sir," Admiral Hayes responded, "with respect, the prisoners will not survive Titan." "That is correct, Admiral. They chose their fate when they opened fire on the Terra's Hope." The raider captains began protesting frantically. "Wait, this is not lawful. You cannot execute prisoners. The Galactic Treaty forbids." "The Galactic Treaty," Admiral Chun interrupted, "protects those who follow civilized conduct. You forfeited those protections when you became pirates and murderers. You will spend whatever time remains to you contemplating your choices. But the Admiral wasn't finished. More importantly, every raider crew, every pirate organization, every predator species in this part of the galaxy will learn exactly what happened here today. They will learn that medical supply ships are not targets. They are sacred. They will learn that threatening human civilians brings consequences beyond their imagination. The human fleet began moving into formation around the raider vessels. Capture cables shot out from the cruisers, latching onto the pirate ships and drawing them into the formation like prey caught in a web. But Admiral Chun still had one more announcement to make. As of today, by order of Earth High Command, and with the agreement of our allied coalition partners, this entire star system is now under permanent human protection. Any vessel that enters this space with hostile intent will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. Jake looked at his tactical display and saw something that made his heart skip. Ships were still arriving, not just human vessels, but craft from dozens of different species. A massive space station was being towed into position at the edge of the system. The New Haven Defense Station will be operational within 6 months, Admiral Chun continued. This system will become a permanent reminder of what happens when innocent humans are threatened. Every ship that passes through here will see our memorial to the Terra's hope and remember this day. Tom Walsh turned to Jake with wonder in his eyes. Captain, they're building an entire defense network because of what happened to us. Jake nodded slowly. It's not about us, Tom. It's about what we represent. Every human who risks their life to help others, every civilian trying to make the galaxy a better place. The raider vessels were being dragged away now, their crews facing a fate that would serve as a warning to predators throughout the galaxy. But Jake realized that the real message wasn't about punishment. It was about protection. Humanity had just declared that threatening innocent lives would bring consequences beyond imagination. And they had the power to enforce that declaration. 3 months later, the story of the Terra's hope had spread across every inhabited world in the galaxy. In the taverns of distant space stations, alien merchants whispered about the human response to a simple pirate attack. What had begun as 6 raiders trying to steal medical supplies had become a legend that changed the balance of power in the Outer Rim. Captain Jake Miller stood on the observation deck of the New Haven Defense Station, watching the massive construction projects taking shape around him. The station was larger than most cities, bristling with defensive systems that could hold off an entire invasion fleet. But more impressive than the weapons were the medical facilities being built into its core. "It's incredible, isn't it?" said Dr. Anna Roberts, the station's new chief medical officer. She had volunteered to leave her comfortable position on Earth, specifically to serve on this frontier station. Jake nodded, watching as another convoy of medical supply ships docked at the station's cargo bays. 6 months ago, New Haven Colony was dying because they couldn't get medical supplies through pirate-infested space. Now this system has become the safest shipping route in the Outer Rim. The transformation had been remarkable. After word spread about what happened to the raiders who attacked the Terra's Hope, pirate activity in the sector had dropped to 0. Criminal organizations that had terrorized shipping lanes for decades had simply abandoned their territories rather than risk drawing human attention. "Have you heard the latest reports from the Galactic Council?" Dr. Roberts asked. Jake turned to her with interest. The Galactic Council had been struggling with piracy and raiding for centuries, never finding an effective solution. They're calling it the human doctrine, she continued. The idea that attacking civilian medical or humanitarian missions should be treated as an attack on civilization itself. 17 different species have signed on to enforce it. Through the observation windows, Jake could see ships from those allied species patrolling the system. What had started as a rescue mission for one human cargo ship had become a coalition dedicated to protecting innocent lives throughout the galaxy. But the most important change wasn't visible from the station. "Dr. Roberts, have you seen the casualty? Reports from the outer colonies?" Jake asked. She smiled. "Colonial mortality rates have dropped by 60% system-wide. Medical supply convoys that used to require massive military escorts now travel freely. The Altarians have started copying our model in their own territories." The transformation went beyond simple security improvements. The legend of the Terra's Hope had inspired something unexpected, hope itself. Young humans throughout the galaxy were volunteering for medical missions, knowing that their species would move heaven and earth to protect them. Other species were beginning to follow their example. "Captain Miller," came a voice from behind them. Jake turned to see Admiral Hayes approaching, his uniform bearing new decorations earned during the cleanup operations that followed the Raider incident. Asterisk. "Admiral," Jake replied with a nod of respect. "I wanted to personally thank you," Hayes said. "Your crew's courage under fire gave us the time we needed to respond. But more than that, your refusal to surrender showed the galaxy what human principles really mean." Jake felt uncomfortable with the praise. "We were just doing our jobs, Admiral. Trying to get medicine to people who needed it." "Exactly," Hayes replied. "And that's what made all the difference. The Raiders thought they were attacking a cargo ship. What they actually attacked was everything humanity stands for: protecting the innocent, helping those in need, never abandoning our principles even in the face of overwhelming odds." The Admiral gestured toward the viewport, where construction crews were installing a massive memorial sculpture. "The Titan Penal Facility has reported some interesting statistics. Word of what happened to those raiders has spread through every criminal organization in known space. Pirate recruitment is down 90%. Nobody wants to risk ending up there." Jake studied the memorial taking shape outside. It depicted the Terra's Hope surrounded by the rescue fleet, but the inscription was what made it powerful: "To those who risk everything to heal others, and to those who protect them." "There's something else," Admiral Hayes continued. "Earth High Command has decided to establish a new branch of the Defense Fleet, a Medical Protection Service. They want you to command it." Jake was quiet for a long moment. "Admiral, I'm not a military officer. I'm a merchant captain." "That's exactly why you're perfect for the job. You understand what it means to put civilian lives first. The galaxy needs more people like you in positions of authority." Dr. Roberts touched Jake's arm. "Captain, in 3 months we've saved more lives than most people save in a lifetime. Imagine what we could do with an entire fleet dedicated to protecting medical missions." Jake looked out at the ships patrolling the system, human vessels alongside alien allies, all working together to protect the innocent. The raiders who had attacked his ship had paid the ultimate price, but their punishment had created something beautiful. They had wanted to steal medicine from dying colonists. Instead, they had given birth to a new age of galactic cooperation. And Hope. 1 year after the attack on the Terra's Hope, the galaxy had fundamentally changed. What began as a desperate attempt to steal medical supplies had triggered a transformation that reached every corner of civilized space. Captain Jake Miller, now Admiral Miller of the Human Medical Protection Service, stood on the bridge of the new flagship Healer's Shield. Around him, a mixed crew of humans and aliens worked side by side, all dedicated to the same mission: ensuring that medical supplies reached those who needed them, no matter what dangers stood in their way. Admiral were receiving a priority. "Transmission from the vegan medical colony," reported Communications Officer Lisa Park, who had chosen to follow Jake into his new command. "They're under attack by raiders." Jake felt the familiar surge of determination. "How many hostile vessels?" 12 ships, sir. But they're demanding surrender of medical supplies destined for a plague outbreak on Rigel 7. Time to intercept? Navigator. Tom Walsh, also still serving under Jake's command, checked his instruments. 47 minutes at maximum speed, sir. Take us there, Jake ordered. And send the standard warning to all vessels in the sector. The standard warning had become famous throughout the galaxy. Any ship that attacked medical missions would face not just the Human Medical Protection Service, but an entire coalition of species that had adopted the human doctrine. The response would be swift, overwhelming, and final. But as the healer's shield raced toward the battle, Jake reflected on how much had changed since that day when 6 raiders had made the mistake of targeting his cargo ship. The Titan Penal Facility had become a symbol throughout known space. The 6 original raiders who attacked the Terra's Hope had survived exactly 37 days in the facility before the conditions finally claimed them. But their deaths had served a purpose. No raider organization in the galaxy was willing to risk sharing their fate. Piracy had virtually disappeared from civilized space. The few criminal organizations that still operated had adopted strict codes: no attacks on medical ships, no targeting of humanitarian missions, no threatening of civilians engaged in rescue operations. Breaking these codes meant facing the full wrath of the coalition that had formed around human principles. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the raider vessels," Lisa reported. "Put them through." The voice that came over the speakers was filled with panic. "Human fleet, this is Captain Vex of the Red Star Brotherhood. We were unaware this was a medical convoy. We are withdrawing immediately." Jake smiled grimly. The mere sight of a Human Medical Protection Service ship was now enough to send raiders running. "Captain Vex, you opened fire on a medical convoy. You know the penalty for that. Please, Admiral, we surrender. We will make full restitution." "The time for surrender was before you fired on innocent medical personnel," Jake replied. "You have 15 minutes to prepare your crews for transport to Titan." The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of the raider engines desperately trying to escape. But it was too late. The healer's shield was joined by allied coalition ships responding to the call: Centauri battle cruisers, Altarian destroyers, and vessels from a dozen other species that had embraced the human doctrine. But the real victory wasn't in space. It was in the statistics that Dr. Roberts had shared with Jake that morning. Medical supply deliveries to frontier colonies had increased by 400% in the past year. Mortality rates from preventable diseases had dropped to the lowest levels in galactic history. Young people from dozens of species were volunteering for medical missions, knowing they would be protected by the coalition fleet. The New Haven system had become a model copied throughout the galaxy. Dozens of similar defense stations were under construction, each one serving as both a military stronghold and a medical center for the surrounding region. "Admiral, the raider vessels have been secured," reported Weapons Officer Mike Stone. "Shall we escort them to Titan?" "Negative," Jake replied. "Transport them to the New Haven re-education facility." The crew looked surprised. The New Haven facility was new, an alternative to Titan that offered raiders a chance at redemption through service to medical missions. It was controversial, but Jake believed that even criminals could be reformed if they truly understood the value of protecting innocent lives. As the healer's shield resumed course toward the plague outbreak on Rigel 7, Jake thought about the 6 raiders whose attack on the Terra's Hope had started everything. They had paid the ultimate price for their crime, but their punishment had saved millions of lives throughout the galaxy. The medical supplies that reached Rigel 7 that day would end a plague that had threatened to kill thousands. The raiders who had tried to steal those supplies would spend the rest of their lives helping to protect such missions. And somewhere in space, other potential raiders were learning the lesson that now echoed across every star system. Attacking humans who were trying to save lives was not just a crime. It was a fatal mistake that would bring consequences beyond imagination. The legacy of the Terra's Hope lived on, protecting the innocent and healing the galaxy, one medical mission at a time. Asterisk.